Conversations with leading experts in enterprise resource planning. Evolving ERP. Powered by Insight Jam.
Welcome back to another Evolving ERP. Happy 2025 to you. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, but we are back finally, once again, for the first time, second calendar year. So, hey, congrats to us. For Evolving ERP, Insight Jam's place for all things enterprise resource planning. I'm your host, Ryan Daly, and with me, again, is Judith O'Callahan. Welcome back to the show, returning champion. And for the first time, we have Sana Asher. Sana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan.
So we're going to be talking about Phase Zero today. I know, Sana, that's where your expertise lies. And Judith, I know we've talked about this before. Would you still say it? Where do you rank it? Top, most important?
Absolutely.
Is it still top? Okay.
It's still the top. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it needs a. I don't know. Zero seems to have a zero value, but
zero is the starting, right?
It is.
Yeah. The
Phase
starting
zero,
of the number system. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowhere to go but up, I guess.
Yeah.
Excellent. So if you are listening, watching here on YouTube, make sure to go right down there, right below, hit the bell, hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss other episodes of Evolving ERP. And of course, you can go back and watch those down below, or all of the other content that we have here on the Insight Jam channel. We just had our Insight Jam Live 2024, 4 whole days of live panels, keynotes, a whole day about work tech and ERP there. So there's plenty of content there if you want to learn more about ERP. It was a great way to end my year at our video team. Lots and lots of work and stress. And then, we'll even back out for the holidays. And now we're hitting it back in 2025. So Judith and Sana, I'm going to stop talking and get out of your way. But maybe, Sana, you can, since it is your first time on the show, just let us know a little bit about what got you into sort of the world of ERP.
It's a pretty interesting question, and it's funny. It actually happened just by fluke. So I've spent about 3 decades within the ERP ecosystem, and I'm sure people are going to cringe when I say this. I started my career with People Thought, and the reason I ran the other way, which was SAP, it was only because PeopleSoft got acquired by Larry Ellison, and I'm like, oops, I'm not going to work for this man. And that's when I got into SAP. I didn't even know much about SAP, but that's kind of like, look, that's how I got started. And started my career, with a business administration background. So started my career within the business, within, selling the solutions. And obviously, Ryan, if you are selling, you need to understand what the heck are you selling and how are you going to do it. And that meant you had to know the product. That meant you had to know how it got delivered. And since then, it's just been a fun ride. It's just been amazing, learning every single day and getting to talk to the best people. Judith has been an amazing ally and a friend, and she's so knowledgeable. So it's just, here I am 3 decades later.
Excellent. Yeah, that's why I always like asking that question. Everybody has a very, very different angle in how they enter this world.
Yeah.
There's not like you don't have the letters ERP on your degree after it.
No, there's no.
You find some other way into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing you mentioned people. And I mentioned our Insight Jam Live of 4 days, and on this show as well, a recurring theme, especially with the rise of AI, is people. The skills, the interpersonal skills they've always been valuable, right? But becoming even more so, where machines can take a lot of the more technical work out of it. Maybe not so great with people. People are still the best with people and need to continue to be. So always nice to hear that. Anyway, I'm getting tired of the sound of my own voice. So I would like to listen to the two of you talk about Phase Zero and anything your heart's desire when it comes to ERP.
Fantastic.
So I will leave that to you.
And thank you, Ryan. So, Sana, it's amazing to have you. So I've been dreaming about this day where we can actually talk about Phase Zero. So
you are so kind, Judith. You are so kind.
Your experience as such amazes me. And you and I have been in ERP for a very, very long time. So enough to bore a lot of people. So we'll keep it super interesting. So let's keep it to let's get to the very basics, right? So when we talk about any SAP methodologies or anything like that, people normally say, "Oh, we do phase zero because we do planning." So you and I talked about it. So what is the difference between phase zero and planning? And planning is not your phase zero. So uh, anyone listening to this, it's ERP 101. Phase zero is not equal to planning. So, Sana, your take on it. Yeah.
Absolutely, Judith. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Phase zero is not your planning phase. Phase zero is a time to kind of take a step back and look at the entire big picture in your organization. It is the ability to say, where has my business been 5 years ago? Where am I today? Where do I want to go? The second piece is, what is supporting me to bring me up to here? What will I need for the future growth? Am I going to be going out there and will I be doing a merger? Will I be doing an acquisition? Will we be subject to doing a hostile takeover? I mean, there's like, I'm talking specifically business, right? All of these pieces, Judith, will translate into what the technology backbone is going to be, because business is changing, business is driving, technology is going to enable the drive. So phase zero is an opportunity to really take stock of what you have, what you can use and reuse, repurpose, and then move on to a transformation journey or any journey that you're looking to do. That's kind of my take on phase zero.
And this is amazing, right? So when we talk about it, normally people tend to talk about technology a lot. So we have seen technology driving a lot of conversations, and people like us take a step back and educate our clients to, look at the business. End of the day, you and I know it's the business that needs to keep working no matter what, and it has to survive in some shape or form. So as we rightly know about, and this is an important step that we want to reiterate our clients not to forget. So, especially with ERP, a lot of implementations implementations, whichever system we look at it, have been done 20 years ago. And the business would have morphed, changed, evolved during that time. It's a great opportunity to look at the business. So now after looking at the business, as we say, we need to look at our garage and we need to look at our attic and other
Yes.
things and see what we have. So you and I talk about it offline a lot, and this is something we sometimes do not do. It's like before moving a house, we do, but in technology stuff, we do not necessarily do. So, what's the value, in your opinion, in doing that activities?
Absolutely. So I think all of us, Judith, at the end of the day, we are humans, right? And all of us really, as humans, want the same real things, right? We all want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We all want to, be there for each other. I think it's the same analogy when you are actually moving into a technology transformation, right? Think of it moving your own home. So when you're going to be moving, depending on how the move is going to happen, are you upsizing or are you downsizing? But either case, you are definitely not going to carry everything that you own. There will be things that you may have outgrown, right? You may say, oh, you know what, that was my favorite rocking chair, but I just don't even use it anymore. So can I just donate it, or can I just give it to somebody, right? Or there may be TVs that you bought like 10 years ago, which are not even smart TVs anymore. And you're going, do I really want to take that with me? So I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize, it's very, very similar to our own human experiences as you look into a technology world, is take a stock of what you have and what you want to give up and what you want to carry, right? And a lot of our clients, Judith, just kind of wake up one day. They have the ability to go to their leadership teams to say, hey, we're going to go start off on a transformation. This is kind of what we need to do. But no one takes the time to kind of step back and say, wait, let me just even look at what I got. And you and I know this. People who are working day in and day out, they're so focused on keeping their lights on. They're not focused on figuring out what custom code is being built for the last 20 years, or how many users do I have in my system. Oh, we were 5,000 users the last time I checked. But the next thing you know, SAP is ringing your doorbell and saying, no, you have 9,000 users. really? We never updated our user log to show people that the guys who had left or, they were consultants. We didn't do any of that. So I think a cleanup and a very clear alignment and strategy on what you are going to take and what you are going to keep, I think is very important. That whole cleanse is very, very much needed.
And that is again very true, right? So just to give our clients, listeners, some basic idea, and you and I talk about it. Like when we come to custom code, simplest thing that we know is 75 to 80% of the custom code is not necessarily used, and this is because the business processes would have changed, evolved, and more. So carrying that to the new house, as we call it, it's just carrying redundant stuff. And
Correct.
that's a beautiful example that you gave. And again, with licenses, and I'm sure you'll have much better examples than this, Sana. So I would like to hear from you on that. License
Sure.
is one of the areas that people normally get caught, like either they have too much or too little
Yes,
or somewhere in between. Yeah. So
absolutely.
you've seen many clients go through that. So what's are some of the challenges that they need to be aware of? It's one of those things. It's like, oh, I've got too much of rice in my house, or
Now,
I've
what
got
do
too
I
much
do?
supplies or
Right?
too little. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think there's some fundamental pillars that I would absolutely focus my attention on, right? You touched upon two, custom code and licenses. But of course, the third most important piece is data, right? I would absolutely look at the data quality that I have and integrations. So one of the biggest challenges, Judith, I have seen, at least in the last 5 years, from a form, and when as soon as Rice came up, is no one is really thinking about integration. So everyone's thinking cloud. I mean, everyone's thinking, on-prem, perpetual license. But the reality is the moment you are going to shift to the cloud, there is a cost to those integrations. It's not plug and play. It's not an API. How are you going to figure that out? You don't even know that, right? So that definitely is another thing to look into. And of course, I think last but not the least is the entire solution review, right? To your point earlier, custom code. You may have taken a specific business process, added custom code to it because that is what your business needed at that time. With the new S4 HANA, the Rise, there's so much functionality that is available right out of the box. Out of the box standard operating procedure, right? So you probably have to sit back and think, okay, let me do a solution review. Let me just look at what I've actually done. Because there's so much opportunity to really transform and make sure that you take your older processes, your older business ways, and say, you know what, I can be more agile, I can be more efficient. I can do an MRP run now in minutes, not hours. I can do a financial month end close in again minutes. I can have a dashboard with analytics, which I don't need to sit and create. It's out of the box. I can give it to my CFO. He can download that on his phone and he can look. So there's so many ways of getting better than where you are.
And and this is again a very good thing. And a lot of us, we're talking about everyone here, we don't realize it. For example, giving the house analytic, we've always cooked the way that we are taught to cook, and there are
Correct.
different ways now we can do it. For example, store things differently, or use different ingredients, or whatever that is. So having a look at the business process in the lens of what's available, as you say, is very, very important. And you and I know of clients who probably have ran about 300 plus reports, and they consolidated to three meaningful dashboards that made sense for them. So these are the fundamental conversations that someone can have.
Want more Insight Jam? Follow us on Instagram for exclusive content like a daily dose of best practices and buying advice from industry experts and leading solution providers. Or subscribe to our YouTube channel for long-form highlights from our expert panel discussions. The Solutions Review team is hard at work collecting the best enterprise technology information from around the globe, so don't miss out.
So taking a step back with the beautiful things that you talked about, like licenses, custom code, data, integration, and few other things. So let's give our audience some pearls of wisdom. So when we talk about integration, every integration translates to 200K approximately in the cloud. Isn't it the baseline?
That is the absolute baseline, and a lot of clients are truly, getting shocked because it's no longer just an API that's plugging in and saying go. It's a whole different architecture, right? You are moving from an on-prem solution to a cloud solution, which means you absolutely need to understand the architecture is going to be different. So 200K, 150K is a starting point. We don't even know where it actually ends because Judith, you and I both know SAP has multiple integrations, right? We all know that. All our clients are using at the bare minimum anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 integrations to run their business. So an opportunity here is twofold. One, see what you can bring in to SAP so you can retire your other systems, right, that you are actually using as an integration. So that's one way, and that's a cost saving because now you've retired that application, you're not paying any more maintenance, you're not doing any development, and it's into SAP. So that's one way. The other way is if you absolutely have to have the integrations, sit down, understand what the cost factor is, because you're going to have to add that cost to your transformation cost. It is just not going out there and implementing an S4HANA system. It's also talking about all of these external pieces and these tiny bits, which are going to add up very, very quickly.
And again, this is a very good eye opener for those listening to it. So be very careful about, saying it's a lift and shift or anything like that. Even if we make it the simpler things, you need to be very mindful of the cost. And this is again taking us to a different, slightly important topic on operating on the cloud, which is very different to operating on prem. So we all talk about the good stuff on elasticity and the ability to have the uptime and downtime scheduled and everything. So some of the challenges, Sana, you and I have talked about it. If the solution is not architected for the cloud, it is going to be a challenge, isn't it?
I think it's challenge is an understatement, Judith. I just think it's going to be a nightmare because part of the challenge becomes, and it's sad, but it's true. We're all living in a time where there's so much information available to all of us, right? YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. The reality is, how much of us are actually asking if this information is true or not? So there's so much noise, right? Everyone is kind of promoting their own agenda. And the one thing that you and I are doing is we are taking authenticity back, right? We're talking about, hey, lead with your heart. Tell the client this is the problem, this is a solution. Let them make the right decision. I think part of the challenge is, Judith, that there is no one out there who's even speaking the truth. Everyone's just covering their tracks, right? Everyone's so worried about how they'll upset somebody else. And no one's really thinking about the client saying, my God, what if we keep continuing this? How are they going to show face to their leadership?
And this is an important point that you bring to the table, right? So concepts like architecting for the cloud. So this is not spoken about in the industry by the SIs or anyone else because it's a very deep concept. And also this requires a complete change in the mindset for you as a client, for your teams, your IT teams, and your extended suppliers. For example, if you've chosen to grow one side of SAP grow, and if you've or somehow taken a decision not to have a test environment, you or your suppliers will not be able to test any new releases and approving it. So you're literally going in with your blindfolds on the first day when your system's upgraded. So these are some of the challenges that we need to accept, we need to work with. Nothing is good or bad, it's all the perspectives, but we need to be aware of it and work with it. And as Sana, you and I talk about, we lead with our hearts and we make the information available. So talking about the other two aspects of what we are very, very passionate about, data. We've always carried 20 plus years worth of data, and it's a
Right.
matter of hardware. We've added hardware in the past. So how does that actually impact as we now work through the next steps of our journey?
Absolutely. So a bunch of different ways, right? I think we are in the most exciting time of our career, Judith, right now, with all our AI agents and so much automation that has actually been evolving, right, in the ERP world. So the data piece, of course, for compliance reasons and for other reasons, most companies do have to keep a minimum of 7 years of data because of compliance. And there's so many solutions out there right now where they can archive that data, where it can be cold. They can just kind of go and look at it. They don't have to bring that data back in, right? So when you are doing or when you are starting a project that is fundamentally going to change the way you do business and the way you are going to deal with your customers, you absolutely have to spend some time on your data quality, on what data you have, do a cleanup, start, throwing out things you do not need. And if you really, really have to keep things, please start working on an archiving project. It sounds really simple, and you and I would think people do it, but they don't. A
It's
lot of clients don't even want to talk about archiving.
Yeah, and let's give a couple of examples, right? So when we talk about a mining industry, a common thing is mines naturally get bought and sold between different organizations, and over the years, when we look at it, there'll be a lot of redundant company codes or information that is stored there, which is not necessarily needed because at this point in time, a company is working with, let's say, 20 sets of company, but you're having 100 company codes or something. So then the organization has an option to either keep them archived somewhere because at some point the data would be useful, or totally get rid of it and opt for a selective data transformation. So these are some of the things that we need to think about and work with. And we are also aware that, Sana, you and me, that there are a lot of organizations who want to bring everything to the cloud for different reasons. So this
Not a good
is
idea.
yeah, not a good idea. And here is why, everyone who are listening to it. 1 year's worth of data, for example, you are going to pay for everything that you keep in the cloud,
Yeah.
especially in a hot environment. And it is going
Yes.
to be very, very expensive. So if you have those millions or any sort of funding backing you, absolutely go for it. Everyone will have a field day. So that is really, really good. You're providing a lot of business to hyperscalers and all sorts of mechanisms behind the scenes. But if it is not something that you can afford, be very, very mindful. So, Sana, some of the examples that we have seen, we've had very tough conversations, especially with the decision makers when we talk about costs. So,
Yes.
well, yeah. So let's talk about them. So, how much does the data actually cost, like in terms of scale of things? So, are we talking about hundreds or thousands or millions?
Oh my God. I think it's anywhere from it's millions, Judith. It's definitely millions. Absolutely. Because look, until you are in your own environment, you're an on-prem solution in a perpetual license, you're never thinking of a cost per click. You're never even thinking that. You're just thinking, I have the license, it's there, I'm doing what I'm doing. But the moment you're taking everything to the cloud, now your hyperscaler is coming back to you and is going to say, "Ooh, no, you access that information 62 times a day, and 62 times is what you're going to pay for." So be very, very mindful of what goes into the cloud. So, which is why I talked about doing a whole data strategy, right? Understanding what you want to keep, what can get archived, and what can completely go away.
Yeah, and this is a fundamental that can save everyone a lot of value. So now, going back to our very first conversation on where it started. So when we look at the Activate or any methodologies, they do not talk about this housekeeping work that you need to do. So this is fundamentally phase zero. Look at your house, look at your business, look at where you're going, set your direction right, and the then you'll sail in the right direction. So this is very, very fundamental. And that brings us to a wonderful question on who do you want to work with? So have someone, we talk about it again, which is have the right advisors in your who get your interest in mind. So now you and I have worked for SIs, and we have also worked for many different organizations, including Big Four, Big Five, whichever you want to call it. So what's the fundamental difference when we talk about, working with the right partner? What does that actually mean in your perspective?
I think, Judith, working with the right partner is a couple of facets to it, right? One, obviously, a culture is a big fit, right? You need to work with people who think like you, right? So there are some clients who are ready with a checkbook, they have the money, and money is not an issue. We need to be the first in our industry to make sure we are an S4HANA or any kind of transformation. Fantastic. No problem. You're never even thinking about the money. But we know now that that is not so much the case. Yes, we've seen clients, but that's far and few in between, right? Many clients want to do transformations, want to embark on these journeys, but the cost kind of stops them. The big four, the large SIs, and or even the ability to go offshore to do some of the work. That kind of just like pauses them and says, not sure, I'm not sure if an offshore person is going to work in my culture or if I'm able to, figure out somebody outside my time zone. I think in that direction, it is very important to show the advisors that are in the customer's time zone who think like them, to say to them, hey, look, this is your playbook. You don't have to do everything day one. Let's take one area. Let's do a phase zero. Let's figure out what we can transform first. And then we do a phased approach. You start doing, phase two, phase three, phase four, phase five. But the way things are getting pushed to clients today is, you don't do the transformation, you're so doomed. You don't do this, it's the end of the world. No, it isn't. It is not the end of the world, right? Because businesses don't freaking die. I mean, they're always going to be there, right? So,
We've been there for 2,000 years, so we're going to be there for another whatever. Yeah.
exactly, another whatever, right? And I think the businesses, Judith, that have the ability to understand that they have to pivot and they have to pivot fast. I think those are the ones who are going to sustain, especially even with the systems integrators, right? They have to be much more open, much more transparent with clients to say, this is what we're charging you for, not for me just showing up every day. Hey, that doesn't matter. I'm not going to charge you for showing up. So I think those pieces need to be looked at a little bit more closely.
That is again very true. Fundamental differences in the way we thought about it in the past and now we think about it. For example, previously, as we talked about showing up every day, time and material programs were okay, but that may still be okay, but you need to do your due diligence. But
Right.
there are other ways to do it. For example, outcome-based consulting is becoming more and more affordable, and also working with people who have your interest in mind. So for clients listening to this, when you work with someone, make sure they have your interest in mind and not, they're not using you for a bigger picture. So you're not one of the, what do you call, a machine part in something that is bigger or something. So those who have your interest in mind will have your back. And this is the reason Sana and I say this. You will have a lot of challenges as you work on this transformation. So the moment you decide to work on this transformation, what you're trying to work on is signing up for a bunch of challenges, because your business processes is going to change, your people are going to change, and your mindset is going to change. So all this is going to be very, very interesting. So have people who have your interest in mind, who are willing to walk every step with you on this journey. They may, they may not be the normal ones that you hang out with every day, but they have been through the path before and they have your interest in mind. So, and the other aspect, Sana, that we talk about is the skill set. So how we have seen that it is becoming more and more a problem or an issue as we approach 2027. So how do we play with that? Because what we've got is what we've got. Yes, there is a lot of people that can scale up, but they wouldn't have the experience. So how do we work with what we have got?
So Judith, it's such an interesting question, because just this morning I was talking to somebody who's based in the UK, and he made such a good point, and I actually got thinking on that. So his point of view was, there's enough people if they are paid the right monies. And I kind of agree and I kind of don't. So let me to answer your question in more specificity. Over the last 5 years, there's a lot of people who've kind of either completely left the industry or have just retired. They've said, okay, I'm done, not doing this anymore. There's another piece of, section of people who have said, like you and me,
Mm.
who said we've done work for other people, but now we're going to do things for ourselves. So it's that category of people. Then there's a third category of people who know S4 but are working for the large SIs, or they're, doing their thing. A fourth category who just know the word S and the four and HANA, but have never done a project. They've just kind of got the, those things there, right? So I think personally that you need to, first of all, pay people what they are worth, right? One of the things that has impacted in the last 2 years is the whole rate gouging. Enterprise architects are not getting paid, 250 $200 an hour. Everyone's doing a rate gouging. So you need to get the right, as we say, the right bum in the right seat. Like, don't
Yes.
freaking pick up somebody else and just, put them there because that's the way to do it, right? No. Get the right person who's the right fit. If you need an enterprise architect, don't settle for a program manager because they're two different skill sets. So bring in an enterprise architect, let him understand what he's doing, then bring in a program manager. For the right people, you will have to pay the right price, right? You can't compromise on that. And there's a saying, right? When you throw peanuts, the monkeys will show up.
Yeah.
So question is, are you just going to keep throwing peanuts, or will you also throw out some better nuts, right? I think the people are there. The experienced people, to your point, agree, are challenged, which is why you need a mix of both. You need the experienced people to come in at the cost and the level of understanding that they bring in, with some of the junior people so they can carry them and they can kind of teach them.
Mm. And this brings a beautiful point, right? So, and we also have access to technologies that were previously not available. For example, AI and the worms that do the data are sorting for us and all those stuff. So we leverage those technologies and the people at the right levels, at the right, doing the right thing. So there is no point in using a Japanese sword to cut butter. So,
No,
get the right people for the right things. So
that's right. That's
we
how
get
it's true.
get people for with the right thing and the right mindset, most importantly. So
Most
if your
importantly.
leadership is not ready, get them equipped for that journey through multiple there are many of our industry leaders who do it, equipping leaders for training for the future and many other things. And the important thing that comes to my mind as we talk about it, transformation is a very sensitive long-term journey, and the skills of the people. Yeah, when we talk about skills, especially in IT, we talk about certifications and very, hard skills. So, what is the importance? Like you and I know it, but it's about articulating it. The importance of the human skills that we need in this industry. So, do clients need to be mindful of that as we work through our stages of the journey?
Sure. So certifications are important, Judith, right? I mean, I'm not saying they don't have any value or they're a piece of paper. They do carry value because they kind of certify that you know the topic in and out, right? Which is why there is a certification, there's a master class, there's so many things that go with it. I think the biggest thing we're all missing, and I hope people listen to this podcast up to this point, is we're missing how to treat people with empathy. We're missing how to lead with your heart. We're missing on how to deal with people as people. We all have just become another line item on the budget, another number, another faceless identity. And I'm sorry, transformations don't happen like that. Transformations happen when everyone is all in at all times for the right reasons, for the right outcomes. So I think fundamentally, our clients need to have a mindset shift as well, to know that they need to come to these programs with a lot of heart, a lot of empathy, and not bust people for no reason. That there is no room to do that. There is enough opportunity for all of us to really succeed at this, really transform, leave an amazing legacy behind, because the people behind us are ready to see what we're going to do, right? This is a chance for us to transform as well. And I hope we all are able to do that.
And you make a beautiful, again, a very important but a beautiful point. Like, we are leaving a legacy with
Yes.
what we are doing. And this is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. You and I have been very lucky at the early part of our careers when SAP or ERP was a thing and we did it. But now we are at a stage wherein we can do it again. And this opportunity of what we have right now may come in another 20 years or 30 years. We do not know.
No
So,
one knows.
what if you're a leader listening to this, and if you're anyone in the CX level, you literally have a magic wand in your hand to set the direction for your organization for the future. You and your team are leaving a legacy. Make sure you're leaving the right one, because at some point, someone's going to look back and say, wow, that is great.
Absolutely. And as to your podcast, Judith, which is Ancient Wisdom, and what you talk about, it's going to go down in history. So there will be someone 20 years from today flipping the page back and saying, wow, I have a lot of lessons to learn from this one.
And that is good. We've been blessed with leaders in the industry and also leaders who coach other leaders to be able to embark on the journey. And we have a lot of them. So if you want that type of help, that is absolutely there. And the other thing that we talk about normally is about streamlining the process. Not everything can be streamlined, with that caveat. What are the things that people can be open about and streamline? And this is again, the information from phase zero is so important that it can condense the period of transformation. So it's like you're not sailing through choppy waters when you don't have to. So phase zero makes the transformation more informed, more impactful, minimizes your disruption, and most importantly, saves you a lot of time and cost just by shrinking the whole period of disruption.
Solutions Review is inviting you to join InsightJam.com. What started a few years ago as a social media event to celebrate enterprise technology has now grown into an always-on tech community with live events, discussions, videos, vendor showcases, and industry resources. Our vetted roster of experts, thought leaders, and analysts are sharing tips and tricks daily. So if you're interested in getting involved, join the long list of companies and brands who have already participated by visiting InsightJam.com today.
So we talk about this, Sana, a lot as we approach the end of the podcast. So these are some benefits that we can provide to our colleagues listening to this. So as we streamline, as we get these inputs from phase zero, how does it help in the transformation?
Sure. I'll give you some real life examples, specifically, remain talking about custom code and licenses. I'll pick these two topics, and I'll go first with licenses. So many of us are aware that the SAP license structure is changing when you are going to a RISE kind of an deal, right? So today that becomes a FUE license, right? Full user equivalent. And today, clients are doing a perpetual on-prem license, 1:1. Hey, I have 2,000 users, I have 2,000 licenses. When you are going to go to a RISE kind of a platform, you're going to have to sit down and figure out how many people are really going to be using your system, because FUEs are going to come in chunks of 136 licenses in one chunk. And guess what? If you don't estimate the right licensing, you're going to be stuck paying for 3 years for things you are not using. So, for you to sit back, understand what your license entails today, what is the optimization opportunity, plus look at that and say, okay, I have to carry this for the next 3 years. You need to really understand how to build a bill of material, right? And that's what you and I are teaching about in our masterclass with the executives. So I think that is very, very, very crucial. The other piece, the custom code piece, right? If you have done a lot of custom code within your ECC, and to the house analogy, we are not going to carry all of that. Sit back and start to map out the processes to say, hey, what can come in standard from SAP? What can I get rid of? Yep, you've spent the money. That the customization is money that you've spent. It's not coming back, but that'll save you money going in. Now, if you can do standard, guess what? You don't have to do a workaround. You don't have to do an integration. You don't have to have a third party system run that business process, right? So, definitely, these are very, very small examples. And Judith, I'm giving you a very high level answer because there's a lot more that gets entailed. But at least as people are listening to this, they will understand that there is a better way of transforming. There is a better way that you and I have talked about.
And that is really good. And it's the phase zero that gives the information to sit back and see what you can do and what you want to do later. There are certainly things, everyone, that you can do right now. That is, after your inputs from the phase zero, there are things that you can do right now in your on premise system. So it makes your transformation smoother, easier. So transformation is itself a very disruptive journey, whichever way you look at it. And we as leaders have the responsibility to make the disruption better, easier, smoother, and the
Older.
period
Yep,
of
definitely.
transformation shorter. So we leave a better legacy and leave a much better outcome. So in signing that, when do you think the market would move? So there is a lot of information, flood of information everywhere, and there is a lot of doomsday calls as well. So it's saying that a lot of people are sitting back and saying, "Oh, I'm going to sit back and see what's going on." So what do you think is going to happen?
I think we're going to kind of see three kinds of people come out of, at the end of this, right? The ones who are going to say, forget this, I'm going to go forward. I will either do a phase zero or I'm going to go directly into an S4HANA transformation. I know I need it. The business needs it. Let's go. There'll be a second set of clients who are going to say, well, I want to do this, but I need to kind of collect more data, or I need to collect a little bit more business use cases for my, leadership teams. I'll do a phase zero. I'll kind of understand what I need. And then maybe in 2 years from now, I will transform to S4. And in the meantime, I'll kind of go to a third party to run my SAP. And then there are the third set who may just come back and say, SAP is not the answer. I'm going to go and get into a Workday, or I will do a Microsoft. I mean, that's what's happening too. But for those clients, the reality is, it's those systems are great, but they're not as robust as SAP. So I think this is not a 3-year journey, Judith. This is a 10-year roadmap. We're looking at 2025 to 2035 by the time we have all of these pieces done, and for us to sit back and say, okay, wow, we did spend the last 10 years doing something remarkable. So
Yeah.
here we are.
And there we go.
Wow, so it's been excellent listening to the two. I feel like you could go on for another couple hours. So I think
Absolutely.
Sana
Yeah.
and of course Judith will have to have you back to talk more about this. I was wondering, given the the length and breadth of both of your experience in the field, like what? Should put an edit point here because my mind just went. Just, I had something, and it just flew away. It flew away. Maybe
It'll
we won't
come
put
to
an
you.
edit point. Maybe we'll leave this in.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I do think. Well, I do know. You mentioned 10 years, a 10-year journey. I know maybe some people are struggling. Maybe they've got a 2-year hard deadline coming up for an S4HANA migration. I guess they got a bit of a reprieve a little while ago, but 2 years. So if you're listening to that and you're in that boat, know that it doesn't end after that 2 years. It keeps going. It keeps going. The changes, they keep coming. And Sana, you mentioned quite charitably Judith's podcast, Ancient Wisdom. Judith, where should people check that out? Where should they look for that?
So look me up on Ancient Wisdom forums. I mean, YouTube, and got a page that's running full of articles. So this is focused on transformation, and you can get the ancient knowledge embedded in today's context.
Absolutely, yeah. I love seeing that the marriage of, well, what better way to say it than ancient wisdom with modern technology. I think there's so much that we can learn for that, and I love seeing your posts. Check out Judith on LinkedIn as well. Always posting there. Sana, where can people go to learn more about what you do?
On LinkedIn as well, and of course on my website. But of course, LinkedIn is the best way to start. So I am on LinkedIn. I also post regularly, at least 5 times a week. I talk only about transformations. I talk about different topics within the transformation. So, yep, please find me on LinkedIn. And I'd love for you guys to follow me.
Excellent. Yeah, so both of those links will be right down below in the description, so check
Great.
that out. You
And
can
I
learn
love
more about...
Sana's Talking Transformations podcast, which is very, very beautiful and has a lot of leaders from SAP or in the SAP space featured there. So it's a beautiful podcast to have. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, so check that out. We will have links to both those podcasts down below. If you are into all things ERP, what better way to expand your knowledge base than to piggyback off of two of the greats in the field right here. So Judith and Sana, thank you so much for coming on Evolving ERP, talking Phase Zero. It was great to hear about. And if you've made it this far on the podcast, I assume you like it, and I assume you're interested. So if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go down below, do that, click those links, connect with Judith, connect with Sana on LinkedIn, check out their podcasts. There's a lot of great stuff out there and right here on the Insight Jam channel. So for Judith and Sana, I've been your host, Ryan Daly, and we'll see you next time in 2 weeks on Evolving ERP.